Welcome to Clothes Horse, the podcast that is seriously so impatient for spring that I might have to do the seasonal clothing swap, like pull my warm weather clothes out of the basement and put my cold weather clothes in the basement. I might have to do that a little early, which is a reckless proposition, but you know how they say march in like a lion, out like a lamb, or vice versa. We're definitely getting the lion part of it right now in March, and even as a Leo, I'm pretty offended by how cold it is. Anyway, I'm your host, Amanda, and this is episode 229. As you know by now, I have been thinking a lot about how we as individuals can do good things in difficult times. And there are two thoughts that I just keep coming back to over and over again as my brain works through this. Number one, it's just the seemingly small things we can do as individuals that are actually really radical. They're really impactful and they're really important. Whether that's mending our clothes or calling our representatives, boycotting big brands, shopping small and local, even just cutting back on our consumption of single-use plastics, that has impact. And I'll tell you, I live in such a bubble of I don't know, obscures for me how radical the things that I do every day are. And a couple months ago, Dustin went to visit his family and he came back and he was like, wow, I think I didn't realize how different a lot of things we do on a day-to-day basis are from what's the standard out there, right? We don't drink bottles of plastic water. In fact, we try to minimize our plastic all around, and of course we compost, and we don't use just about anything single use at this point, unless it's like an emergency, or there are other circumstances that prevent us from being able to use the reusable versions. So even here around the house, we don't use paper napkins anymore. I have many fabric napkins that I thrifted for the Clothes Horse Jamboree, and now we just use them for every meal, right? And I just wash them all once a week with the dish towels and everything else. Or how I hang out laundry to dry whenever possible, just to save on the energy use of drying that stuff and extend the life of it. And once again, these are just small things that are pretty unglamorous, they're not really anything that some company is going to make billions of dollars off of, because how? But they're radical, right? And if more and more people are doing these things, it adds up. It makes a difference. Can one individual change the world on their own? Pretty unlikely, unless we're talking about, the plot of an action film. But when we are doing these seemingly small things at the same time, we see huge shifts happen, which brings me to number two. And no, not that number two. Gross. Go somewhere else. Rebuilding and re-engaging with our community is essential if we're going to accomplish anything. And it's also an essential part of quality of life for us. Sometimes we just need to sit around and gab with some other people, and it doesn't even have to be about anything serious, because human interaction, even for me as an introvert, it is essential. Knowing our neighbors is essential. And I think that many of us lost that in the first few years of the pandemic. I know I did. I became more isolated than ever. Although, to be honest, I was feeling that already when we moved to Philadelphia in 2018, because I just couldn't find friends in Philly. And that isolation made me even more depressed. I guess it made the transition into quarantine a lot easier for me, but that's really depressing to say out loud. I mean, beyond the emotional wins of community, which are massive, working with others actually amplifies the impact of these small but radical things that we do every day, because then we do them with other people. So yeah, I'm thinking a lot about how we can connect with our communities and have a positive impact on them, because I truly believe that real change starts small and it starts close to us. It's why I believe so much, for example, in the power of small business. But it also begins with grassroots efforts, these seemingly small but radical things. Last week, I had a Zoom hangout session with some other friends in the slow fashion world, all past guests on the pod who are now my friends. And it was just so nice to spend time with them because all of us, without saying it until we got together last week, all of us have been feeling kind of isolated and anxious. And I'm grateful that one of our friends did the work of getting us all together because it made me feel so good. And in our conversation, we started talking about how we feel that the biggest organizations in sustainable fashion are missing the mark when it comes to inclusivity and bringing more people into the fold. And to be honest, I see a lot of, like stinky behaviors of fast fashion reflected in the sustainable fashion world way too often. For one, there is so much classism and fat phobia and racism and ageism in the ways information is shared and who is featured as a voice or a model on social media, in events that these organizations have, just who they choose to be their ambassadors, right? There's also, and this is so real, I feel this, there is intense competition on this landscape. And I think it's possibly because nowhere is the money scarcer. Scarcer a word? Is it more scarce? I don't know. It's so scarce in the world of sustainable fashion. And that's not something that I'm just perceiving. That's real. There's been this like chart making its way around social media, basically talking about how the right end of the political spectrum has so much funding for its podcasts, its influencers, its content creators, etc. Like there's money in being on the right end of the political spectrum. And I don't mean right correct. I mean like right as in the opposite of left. Whereas there's a lot less money on the left side, right? And there is definitely a lot less money in the world of, climate action and anything sustainability related, and certainly the world of sustainable fashion, unless you want to take money from or companies, like Allbirds or Everlane, who have a lot of funding somehow, but actually engage in a lot of greenwashing, right? So there's not a lot of money to go around. And I think, unfortunately, while for many of us who work in this space, it's a full-time job, it's not a paying full-time job, right? It's like a volunteer full-time job. And it is creating this intense sense of competition. A big name in the world of slow fashion, who many of you follow, has actually been systematically blocking other creators in the slow fashion space because she feels that we're all copying her ideas by existing. This sense of scarcity actually kills collaboration and it creates paranoia, right? It just isolates people even more, which is like literally the exact opposite of what we need right now. It frustrates me so much because we actually need way more people talking about all of these things so that we can reach more people. We need like everyone. Well, not everyone, but we need a lot of people involved if we're going to change anything. Obviously, if we could get every single person involved, what a win. But even right now, we just need a lot more people. And there's room for everyone as long as we get rid of this idea of competition and we focus on collaboration. In fact, this intense competition leads to another shitty, fast fashion-y thing that's stealing and copying content. This happens constantly, and just about every creator in the slow fashion space has a story. Here's what's interesting. It's generally not other creators and activists copying one another. I think that there is such a strong unspoken code, I guess I would say, of ethics amongst this community that those of us who are on the ground doing the work would never do that, right? It's really more like these large organizations, companies that are coming in looking to profit off of slow fashion. It tends to be entities that have money to pay people for work that are showing up and copying work, unfortunately. For me, the most traumatic example of that actually like almost destroyed me, and I still feel anxious about even now, several years later, happened with Remake, right? A pretty large organization in this space. Now, I want to say the year that this happened to me, Remake raised $1 million, which I recognize. While I would love somebody to give me $1 million, it's not actually a lot of money when you're trying to like fight for a better world. I totally get that. But a few years ago, basically what happened is I was tagged in a post on Remake's Instagram, and it appeared to outsiders to be some sort of collaboration, some sort of discussion that they had with me about my experiences with bipolar disorder and its connection to shopping. Except that wasn't the full story, right? Because I wasn't even consulted about the post. It was taken out of context also, but it painted me as someone who is like extremely mentally ill and has a shopping addiction problem. And it was very, very upsetting. The quotes in that post were actually pulled from a caption I shared on an Instagram post 2 years prior to Remake using them. So something from a long time ago. Like I said, it was completely out of context. I was afraid to speak up, but then I did. The organization and the CEO continued to bully and gaslight me for days afterwards. I had a horrible Zoom meeting with the CEO of Remake that she would not allow me to record, where she berated me, was really shitty, kept referring to Clotheshorse as clothing pony, talked down to me, basically told me that I am prioritizing trying to be famous over the real hard work that Remake does, that I'm trying to destroy good things in the world because I am so hungry for fame on social media, which none of that could be further from the truth. It was very, very upsetting. Then Remake shared some post that was supposed to show that I was lying, but really just made them look like assholes. I don't know. They turned off comments on it. The whole thing was very traumatic, and I've tried not to talk about it or think about it for a long time, but it has certainly impacted how I approach organizations and companies stealing my content on social media or stealing stuff out of episodes of Clotheshorse and not crediting me and all kinds of other things, right? And even Remake itself copied my billboard post like 2 days after it came out, and I have blocked Remake and basically everyone involved with Remake who was an employee since this all went down because I just didn't feel safe. But people would send me these posts. And so I see this stuff happening all the time, and I just don't speak up about it because I've been so traumatized in the past. But it's not just me that has experienced this, and it sucks, and it's gross, and it's fast fashion-y, and the last thing that slow fashion should ever be is anything that operates like fast fashion. This is all to say that we don't need huge organizations or big accounts to make change in the world, right? We need each other. We need our communities, and we need more of the small but radical things we do every day to become the norm, because that is what it is to do good things in difficult times. Throughout this year, I'm going to be sharing episodes about different things you can do in your community that seem small but create positive, lasting impact. If you're doing something in your community that you think would be great for other people to introduce in their area, drop me a line because maybe we can do an episode about it. All of this very long introduction, is just so I can explain why I am so excited about this week's guest. It's Scout of Radical Sewing Club. Described as a safe space to learn how to sew and repair textiles while in community, Radical Sewing Club is a weekly meetup held in LA. And right now, Scout is on a world tour, including holding Radical Sewing Club nights in other places. Next week, well, really later this week, they will be in Cafe Con Libros in Pomona, California, and I'll share the link for you to register for that in the show notes. I'll remind you again at the end of the episode too. I'm so excited for you to meet Scout because while mending and sewing is often dismissed as unimportant, unskilled work, we know that is completely untrue. And so many of us are hungry for these skills, right? And Scout is going to share what they have learned along the way that can help you start your own mending and sewing club in your community. We'll be talking about important things like venue, cost, materials, and even how a typical Radical Sewing Club evening plays out. And along the way, we're going to talk about lots of other important things, including the following questions. Has capitalism taken away sources of joy for us only to replace it with shopping? How do we get those sources of joy back? Why is the lack of third spaces an issue that impacts people of all ages? Why is building community sometimes as simple as knowing your neighbors? And how has capitalism made that more difficult? Why is it actually super radical to repair fast fashion? And how many people do we really need to push back and make serious change in this world? We'll also touch on the cows that are my neighbors and why we have jeans trauma thanks to the aughts. All right, we have so much to talk about, so let's jump into my conversation with Scout. Okay, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, my name is Scout. My pronouns are they, them. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I run Radical Sewing Club, a place where you can come learn how to repair your clothes, learn some basic hand stitches, and just hang out in community with people from LA.
And today we're going to talk all about how people can start their own Radical Sewing Club in their town, because I really do believe these kinds of events, like meetups, gatherings, whatever you want to call them, are like indeed like super radical, especially now, and we need them more than ever. But I thought we could get started by talking kind of a little bit about your experience, because you have other jobs as well, your experience with like secondhand textiles and clothing in California, like especially in Southern California. Because when you and I were talking before, you had a lot of really interesting insights, and I think you are seeing multiple aspects of an issue that most people don't get to see, you know, because you work in a thrift store.
I work at Sway and I work at Goodwill as well.
Something that I thought was really interesting when you and I were talking before is kind of like people's sort of like habits and expectations around donation. And I really specifically just wanted to talk about this with you because, one, you have so much wisdom around like what's happening in the secondhand world and how complicated it is. And I hope that sometime you can come back and talk about like a whole episode just about that. But when you and I were preparing before, we were talking about how in the wake of the LA wildfires, how people were just like flooding with clothing donations. And it was like, yeah, we have plenty, guys. Please stop. But people were kind of like, I don't care. I'm sending more.
Yeah, well, like even at both places, we're still getting people wanting to donate to specifically the LA wildfire relief. And what's interesting to me is that I don't see people in LA asking for it. So I'm wondering why people are still donating to centers like that, because nobody's asking for it right now. And when I know there's going to be a time, because I've talked to some of those people from places that have lost their homes and they are starting to rebuild. They're starting to get back into a home and try to get their loved things back. At Sway, we have people who want our pillows. They're like, I just want my home to feel like my home again. And so we are seeing those people again, like starting to build, but they're not asking for help like that yet.
Yeah.
And I think it will come up as people start to settle in long-term housing, but we're not there yet. And I don't know why people are still donating. I think if you want to help your community, ask your community what they need and then give them that.
Yeah, absolutely. There was like a 2-day period where everybody was fighting on the internet about this. And it was really frustrating to me because if people say, please don't send your clothing to this place that is currently facing so many challenges right now, then you just don't send your clothing. But there were people who were willing to just like go scorched earth and be like, you're wrong, I'm sending it anyway. And it would be like, no, like literally please don't, you know? And it was so frustrating to me because like I understand why you will feel helpless and want to help, right? Like, what can I do? I feel powerless to fix this situation. and you're like, here, all I have is clothes. Please let me send my clothes. But sometimes like the most helpful thing you can do, in fact, in every situation, the most helpful thing you can do is listen to the people who are on the ground working on that situation.
Yeah, I think so many people, and this is, I have posse tattooed on my knees, and it's not from toxic positivity. I just genuinely believe that people are good people, that most people want to be a good person. And I think, like we were talking before, where I was talking about wanting to be like a trash activist. People want to do the right thing with their trash, and they want to do the right thing in donating or in giving goodwill, as in like general goodwill to others. Like they want to do that and they want to be a part of that. And it's not easy. It's not an easy thing you can do.
Yeah.
And so many people want to feel like they've done something new. So they donate and that to them is like, I've done good. And it's just not. And I think the biggest thing you can do as an individual is just look at yourself and like, what kind of skill do you have? What kind of excess resource do you have? Sometimes that resource is money, and sometimes that resource is time, and sometimes that resource is knowledge. It comes in all forms. Sometimes that resource is you have access to a ton of something like shampoo that you could help give out to people for some reason, or random, you know, it could be anything. And I think you need to look into yourself and your own resources and figure out how you can provide that to others. And with Radical Sewing Club, that's what I did. I had been given, as a person who sews, a ton of like fabric and sewing notions and supplies and things like that. And I kind of was looking at all of this like, what do I do with it? And how do I service my community? And can these things be together? And it was just a matter of like looking at my resources and looking at what I could give to my community.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that is really what it is. It's sort of like taking that step back and feeling like, I don't know, recognizing what you can offer, and then moving from there. And I was reading this thread on Reddit a long time ago. I can't even remember what the subreddit was or what the seed of the conversation was, but the gist of it was like, hey, a lot of people think like, if they want to get involved in supporting people in their community, building community, making change, resistance, all of these things, their mind first goes to like, okay, well, what can I donate? Or how can I like be the figurehead of this like movement, right? And the reality is actually we need a lot more people who are like providing childcare for people to, you know, go on strike or go protest, or people who are cooking for their community, or picking up groceries for people, or driving them places, or just there's all these other like simple tasks that people can plug themselves in and do that are really super important and necessary. And they have nothing to do with like donating your clothes or being like, I'm the founder of this organization. Like we just all, there are so many things for all of us to do. And I think you know, I don't know. I always think about like Star Wars movies and how like you watch them and you get into the mindset of like you're the hero, like you're Luke Skywalker or you're Princess Leia, whatever. And so you are this like specially chosen person by the universe who's going to go like change the whole universe basically, or galaxy. I don't know. And we get into our heads that like we get this like hero sort of like narrative that like we have to go out there and be the Luke Skywalker of it, when we could just be the Ewoks who prepared a meal for everyone and like took care of them, you know?
Yeah, totally. No, yeah, I love that. I heard somebody talking about something like that a while ago, and how they phrased it was like, I'm not the hero, I'm just an NPC.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Like recognize who you are, and that's okay. Like we can't all be the hero in the movie. I love that. Okay, but in talking about like kind of what you're saying, I actually was listening to KCRW, our like local public radio channel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they have this little mini segment right now that's like, write a letter to your hero, and like a local hero. And this older man wrote about how his wife was really sick and they brought her home to kind of like pass at home. And his like neighbor friend just came over and like moved in and like stayed for like 3 months while she like deteriorated, and was just there and helping and cooked and cleaned while he could have those like last few months. I'm gonna cry. Yeah,
I know. I think I'm going to.
I thought I could tell this story, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, feelings. But like, no, it was just so beautiful. And this man was just talking about like how lovely it was to be able to have those last few months with his wife, in with like not having to worry about the day to day. And it's just like, it's the little things. Like, there's so much you could do for your people that like you don't even realize, because we're so used to being like spread apart and like not interfering in each other's lives. But like, yeah, just go help people. Like, just go be in each other's lives. It's surprising how easy it is and how much we all actually want it.
It's so true. Like, one time my neighbor's cows got out of their like fenced in area. They have these
I'm
two
from
cows.
LA. You just said your neighbor's cows. Like, what state do you live in? What? Where?
I literally live on a farm in the country.
That's amazing.
So my neighbors across the road, they have two cows that are like rescues that they're part of the family. And their names are Brownie and Coco. I did not choose these names. I would have chosen something way more exotic for two brown cows, but whatever. They're like the funniest guys ever. Like, they're both guys. They're in love with each other. They're grooming each other. They're always spooning each other in the meadow or whatever. And one day I came home and I was like, wait, why are Brownie and Coco over there? And Dustin, my husband, was like, oh, well, maybe they let them out to walk around. And I was like, no, you don't. That's not a thing. You don't just like let your cows go out and like free range around. I'm like, this is a bad thing. And I realized that they had gotten out of their fence. And so I was trying to gather them in. And then my neighbor was driving by. You know, she's one half of the couple that owns the cows. And she was like, oh my God, and like pulled over, and we were trying to get the cows in. And then she texted her husband, and he came up, and he had to wrangle them in on a 4x4. They like respect men a little more. These cows have toxic masculinity going on. Okay. But anyway, I was like helping them, and they were just like, wow, I can't believe you helped us get our cows back in. And I was like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah, you're there,
of course
you see
I would.
it, you know,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's so easy. I would love to, like, I need to hear more stories about your day-to-day life, actually. Just like, that's just like one day in your life. Wow.
Just one day in my life. I don't actively farm, but there's like farming happening all around us. And like, you know, we rent our house, but we rent our house from an Amish family.
Sick.
So like they travel around by like horse and buggy.
Yeah. I used to live in Athens, Ohio. I'm familiar with the general area.
Okay. Yeah, so where I live is deeply Amish. Now, my neighbors across the road with the two cows are not Amish, but the majority of our like neighbors, which all live pretty far away from us, they are Amish. And so it's just like buggies going up and down the road all day, every day. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's very quiet. And I don't know, like it has a vibe of like, hey, we all look out for each other in a way that hasn't in other places I've lived. But I also think just like my neighbor being surprised that I would want to help catch the cows. It's like, that's what people should do for one another, right? And neighbors should do for one another. But I think we have gotten so accustomed to like, don't bother anyone, mind your own business.
Ooh, don't even get me started on how like mandated legal walls and fences have changed our communities. Like, it's a lot in a ton of suburban neighborhoods. You have to have a fence. You have to have a wall. Living in Athens, Ohio was crazy. I was like in the backyard and could see for like half a mile down because nobody has a fence. Like that shit's crazy. That like we don't have that here in the suburbs.
Yeah, I mean, out here where I live, there's only a fence if it's to contain some sort of like livestock. It's not to fence off your yard, you know? And it is a different vibe because I can see everyone's houses and like what's going on. And I like it. But it is sort of refreshing because I don't know, I have always been raised to like mind your own business, don't worry about what other people are doing. And that just keeps us separated from one another. And the reality is there's a big difference between being like some rude busybody and like just being a responsible citizen and caring about the people around you. And we need to like remember that it is good to care for one another and it's welcome.
Yeah, totally. So in thinking about like community and being close to people and who we bring into your world, I have always been a part of a community. And there have been different issues that made me feel like not a part of communities that I felt like I was in. And so I left them. And in creating Radical Sewing Club, like, I've never said this out loud, but like, part of the radical was just like cool 80s radical. And like, obviously a big part of it was like radicalized, like politicized, like thinking radically against like the social standard. But I like, that was it. And that was me. And my brain just kind of didn't think farther than that. And even with Sewing Club, like, I didn't know that it would become this. And so we're almost a year out of weekly. I started in 2023 and then kind of took a break and picked back up in 2024. But now that I'm here, it's just kind of popped off and it's been awesome. And I've met so many people, and so many people have decided that they are a part of my community. And that's hard for me because I have very strong feelings about who I let into my heart. And in building a community, you don't get to have strong feelings. If somebody wants to be here, they're here. And so I'm learning to like let go of that feeling, which like isn't an issue. I haven't had anybody show up to Radical Sewing Club that I'm like, never again, please. Like, don't let that person come back. Like, there hasn't been that situation, but it is just like, people claiming me before I've claimed them is a feeling I'm learning to like get over. And again, not because anybody is not cool, it's just because of my personal feelings. It's just, it's interesting. Like, yeah, like I built a community and like, I didn't know that was what I was doing when I started it. And I'm happy that I'm here and I love it, but it's just such a big, powerful thing to be like in charge of. And I think about like, the platform of Radical Sewing Club a lot. That's on my mind a lot. What am I representing and who am I representing and how am I staying inclusive and how am I staying accessible? And it's sewing, so it's automatically something that's not accessible to people who maybe don't have like great hand motion or physicalities, you know, abilities, people who maybe don't have a lot of vision abilities. There's just a lot of just standard, like there's just low access for certain kinds of people, and that sucks. And so I'm constantly trying to think about that and how do I help people with things like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good thing to call out. It's something that I think about constantly too, where I'm always like, how can more people have access to the things I'm talking about on Clothes Horse? And how can more people connect with one another with these like shared values and shared ideas? And to me, it's like, it's always a process of like growing and doing better year after year, you know, whether it's like, okay, well, I sit down and I type out this whole transcript for people who would prefer to read information, or that's just like the best way of getting information. And it's like, I pay to have the podcast transmitted over to YouTube just as an audio, but with subtitles.
That's so sick. I actually didn't know you did that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I do like all of these things, and like it didn't happen all overnight, but I was constantly like, how can I do better and better and better? And it's really, really important to me. And I will tell you, like, I've had people say to me, like, why? Why do you care so much? And I'm like, that's what it is to be in a community and to really be passionate and believe in it, is like you want everybody to be able to be a part of it. And it is, I've always been like a very sort of like, I don't know, high social anxiety person. And so I've never been like, oh, look at my huge group of friends. Like I have a few close, good friends, and I'm always like nervous about meeting new people unless it's in a very like manufactured situation. Like if we're in a meeting at work, then I accept that I have to like talk to you and it'll be totally normal and fine. But like, I'm not going to be the person who's like at a show and going up to strangers or anything. Like that's just how I am. And so for me, this has been like quite I don't know, like a growth experience for me, having, like you were saying, all these people who I didn't pick or know before be a part of my life, a part of my community, and be there and like talk to me and listen to me. And it's 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 a lot, you know, in a good way, but also like there are days in the beginning where I was like, this is so weird. People who I don't really know me. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No,
Yeah.
even what's crazy is like I work at Sway. Sway is cool. Like people know who they are, even from outside LA. And I don't like on, well, I guess now I am, but like on Radical Sewing Club, I'm not like, check me out because I'm like verified by Sway. Like that's not happening. Like I just happen to work
Right,
there.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I'll be at Sway, which I think is a cool place to be, and I'll say my name, or people will recognize me from Radical Sewing Club, which is crazy. And then I've been at a show, like just at a show somewhere, seeing a band and seen somebody's like mended item and like commented on them, because that's my favorite thing, is talking to people like just in the wild who have mended clothes and hearing their stories about it. And they'll have heard of Radical Sewing Club, and that like in the wild, like that's crazy. Being in LA, you're just adjacent to like famous people, and like that's chill, and like it's just something you kind of become accustomed to. But like not me, like I just do sewing and like work at Goodwill or whatever, you know, like it's it's so crazy. But it makes me so happy, because like to me that's telling me that many people have thought about clothing repair or sewing or learning
Yeah.
how to sew, because that's what that's telling me, is like something in their algorithm, something in their life got them to the point where they were thinking about it at least. And that's the biggest like ethos behind Radical Sewing Club for me, is that even if you don't think you're a political person, even if you don't consider yourself a radical, if you're just living your normal everyday life, thinking about repairing your clothes is radical. Learning about sewing and repairing your clothes is radical. And doing it is radical. It's a political act. And like you put it in your posts all the time, but it literally is. And it makes me so happy, because like I'm from the suburbs. Like I know the kind of person whose mind I want to change, because there's so many people that come that are already politicized and I love that they're there, because I want to teach everybody how to repair their clothes. But more importantly, like a little bit, I want to radicalize everybody. Like, and that's awesome.
Totally. And I do think like there is this like sort of like halo effect that happens. Like when we, you know, maybe we start mending things with people around us who are also like already radicalized and interested in mending and thinking about how radical it is. But what happens is like people see those people out with their mended stuff and ask about it, and they talk about it, and then that sort of plants the seed of like, why don't we repair our clothes? We should repair our clothes. And those people reach even more people. And then just like people are, I mean, this hasn't happened yet, but like it will, where like the Today Show is like talking about like mending clothes or something. That's like my dream, right?
Yes.
That like, that's when I'll know.
Imagine I teach like Kelly and Michael how to repair darn or something.
I would love it. I would be like so excited. Like, I just feel like we're getting there.
Because it used to be like that. Like everybody.
And like, that's why I think that sometimes people don't recognize that this stuff is so radical, because they're like, whatever, everyone used to do that. And it's like, sure, but like not for like generations now at this point. Like, this is radical.
Yeah. And that's the thing about capitalism, that like a little bit, I get it. Like it feels really good to make money and then give that money to somebody else to do a task you don't want to do. I get it.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
I was a house cleaner. I would love to pay a house cleaner to clean my house. I would never, but like I get it. I get the idea. And so
same.
there's a like, I'm making money. I'm gonna like buy the things that I want, and just if my clothes are trash and I throw them away, I'll just buy more clothes. Like whatever. It's money, like whatever. And there's also like, I'll just pay somebody else to fix it. Like that's happening, and I get it, and I love, like I get where it's coming from. But like capitalism has shot so far that like nobody thinks about like that thing where people used to sew, like, that's old tech, that's old timey, we don't do that anymore. And it's like people are carrying two thoughts at once, like, that's old timey, and you're like, yeah, everybody used to do it, everybody kind of does it, my grandma sews. And it's just like, it's two different things at the same time, and they're not putting like it's like, but you could do it now, bro. Like, like you could be sewing right now, and like, yeah, they used to do it, and you could do it. You know, there's just like no next thought, and it, like, Radical Sewing Club is very anti-capitalist, and it's like, capitalism has just brought us so far. But capitalism made the laws that made us make fences. Capitalism, like, made the idea that you could pay somebody else to do it, and like, it's so. My friend has a song called "A Long Sigh," and I always think about it because it's that like you get to the point where like all I can do is sigh, like that's just it. It's so big, this problem.
Yeah, and it's reached a major tipping point where like it seemed like capitalism was bringing a lot of positive things into people's lives for a while, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But then now it's like, oh, it just like makes your life harder.
Yeah.
And kind of, it also, I don't know. I had this weird moment this morning where I was like scrolling Reddit, and it's like sometimes Reddit will recommend things to you that you've never expressed any interest in ever, but it like somehow knows that you're going to read this post. And it was from the subreddit for people who have Kindles, right? And it was basically like people talking about how they have 5, 6, 7, 8 Kindles and how many Kindles is too many. And I was like,
wait, isn't the whole point that it could hold 1 million books? Wait, what?
I know. Okay, exactly. I was like, what? I know. And
is it because they're different? Like, you got the one in rose gold and you got your travel size. Like, isn't it already? I'm so confused already.
I know. I could not follow why so many people had so many Kindles. And because I was like, isn't the point, like you, of having a Kindle is that it can kind of have infinite books, right?
Yeah.
And you could like swap them in and out.
So
and I might
be
totally wrong here.
What?
Maybe you do need a bunch of Kindles, but I always felt that
it's
Kindle,
like a OG iPod. Like, you can only hold like 90 songs.
which maybe that's what it's like. Not that I ever had more than one iPod at a time either. I would be like on there like pulling things in and out, right? Yeah. So I'm just like, I don't understand it. But I was thinking about that because I was like, wow, how does Reddit know just what to show me to make me like think about it for an hour,
angry,
right? And I was like, I'm thinking about why someone would have all these Kindles. And then I was like, it's just like people who have like 30 Stanley cups or like collect those cups from Starbucks.
Yeah. I have a cousin who has all the Starbucks cups, and she always gives me some, and I'm like, I love them because I love having a cute little cup and going like having my drink in something. I drink a lot of Red Bull, so like an icy drink, and nobody knows I'm drinking Red Bull all day. But yeah, I've got the Starbucks cup, and like even my wife is like, "Are you sure you want to bring that out with us today to this event? Like, are you sure?"
Seriously, yeah, I would be concerned. But yeah, and I was like, it's just like that. Like, how many travel cups do you need, right? Like, how many water bottles do you need? How many Kindles do you need? And
then that's capitalism.
It is. And I got into my head about it, and it was like perfect timing because now we're having this conversation. It's like Reddit knew this was all going to come together today. I don't know. But I was like, okay, I think the problem is that like capitalism has taken certain things away from us that maybe bring us more satisfaction and happiness than we thought at the time, like mending, like repairing, like making and creating and imagining and cooking and growing things. It kind of took that away from us because it was like, we have a supermarket, so you don't need to grow your own food, and we'll just sell you more clothes instead of fixing them. And don't worry, you can just get another Kindle instead of swapping out the books on your Kindle. You know, it just was like, don't worry, you don't need to do anything. You can just buy stuff. And by doing that, it kind of just took this like joy away from us.
Yeah, it's also like in capitalism values the individual. Right. And so all of the public places where the public things were for the public to own together that's gone.
Yeah.
People, yes, libraries exist, but like how many books is actually in your library? Like go look at your local library right now. I doubt there's as many books as you actually think there are.
Facts.
Like write down a number of shelves and then go look, and I bet there's like 90% less.
Yeah.
And so like instead of the public owning things together, we all are our own fucking, like, our houses are full of collections, and I'm one of them. I just showed you my house. My house is full of shit. And like I own a ton of books.
Same.
And it's just and it's like instead of as a collective owning things together, we have like this idea drilled into our head that like we are supposed to be the owners of our own archives, our own collections, and then also you don't share that with people. You don't share your own collection. We're not doing that. This is mine and this is yours. And like, it's so fucked. Like it's all about the individual. So there's another group out here called Radical Clothes Swap. We're not affiliated, but I really like what they're doing. Okay. A lot of people think they're me. And maybe they get that on that side, the other way. So but they're really cool. They're another local group. But I've seen Clothes Swap because they're in Los Angeles, and there's another group called Consumption Collab out in the Inland Empire, and they're both clothing swaps, and they each created like their own communities. They've built communities around just the clothing swap and like coming together, and maybe you're not trading clothes every time, but you're still coming to be in community with people, and anything could be a community, any kind of activity, any kind of thing. And it's so beautiful. It's so amazing. And I just love that.
I love that too. I think, like I said, these things like talking about clothes or sharing clothes or fixing clothes, like people will be kind of like, whatever, that's nothing, whatever. It's like a silly thing. And it's actually so radical and revolutionary right now. And I just want more and more people to do it. Because it really does, beyond even like the net win of like, I fixed this thing and now I can wear it, or I swapped for this new thing that makes me feel really good when I wear it. Beyond even that, it's like you're there with people and you're like seeing them and talking to them and building relationships with people who you might have never met otherwise. And I'm constantly thinking like, what are other ways that people can just come and be in the same place at the same time that doesn't involve shopping or buying a drink or, I don't know,
being at a bar late at night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's just like not that much.
I got a LA Times article written about me, and a big like question and kind of like idea where that article was trying to focus was like third spaces, places where young people can come and be. Also, that article was written by Lena Abskull. She's dope, and just want to shout her out.
Okay. Shout out Lena.
So it was coming from the idea of like third spaces for young people. Like I said, I'm 36, and a lot of people that show up are like in their 20s in general, but I do get like a variety of ages, which is awesome. Somebody brought their mom, cool. And I had to teach somebody's mom how to sew, and I had so much anxiety. Like it's crazy to try to teach somebody's mom how to sew. The idea of a third safe space, and like in the DIY community, I feel like safe space is so like whatever, like that term is overused. But as like a femme in my body, like in a female body, I don't like going to shows at bars. It doesn't feel great because there's always going to be people that are just there to be at the bar and they're drinking, and I don't really drink, and I don't really want to be out late at night.
Same.
Even when I was younger, I didn't really want to. I love the sunshine and I love like daytime activities, and it just feels nice to be able to find things like that. Like in your clothing swap episode, like one of the things that person was talking about was like, do them in the morning. And it's just like, we don't have a lot of morning activities for fun and friendship. Like, that's awesome. They're like, I love that. And I just think that so many people are looking for a space that's like a sober space, a
Totally.
space where people aren't going to be cringy. It's like, you know, and it's just like whatever kind of activity it is, even if it's just hanging out, but like whatever, like puzzle making or board games, you know, like any kind of thing, but just that third space idea, that safe space idea. Like I love that. And I'm so happy that I accidentally built that.
That's incredible. Yeah, I think constantly about the third space idea because, you know, when I was growing up, at least, I don't know, like my friends and I would go to the mall on the weekends, or like we could go to the park, and there were always shows at like this is such a like a growing up in the country thing, but like at fire halls, which are basically like the firehouse, but out in rural areas, all the fire people are volunteers, so they're not there all the time, and so you can rent out the fire hall where they store the trucks and stuff, and you can have shows there.
I was just gonna say, like, this sounds like cool, like VFW. We don't have that
Totally.
in LA, like
Yeah.
shows at the VFW.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
Or
exactly
basement shows.
Exactly.
I went to my first basement show when I lived in Ohio, and like I was so stoked.
Yeah. Exactly. Like when I was living in Portland in the aughts, like all the shows were in people's basements or backyards or living rooms, and it was just like, yeah, this is so much better than being at a bar where people are in varying levels of intoxication and might be creepy or aren't in there to see music at all, like you were saying. And we just don't, you know, over time, all of the basement shows and backyard shows in Portland went away as those houses that were rented by a bunch of punk kids got sold, right? And people had to move into apartments, and that kind of went away. And there were a lot less shows and a lot less places you could go hang out that weren't bars or venues. And it felt like it's a loss that still like kind of like makes my heart ache a little bit. Out here where I live, like it's a non-issue because like there are, you know, everybody's so spread out. But I think about that all the time. Like how do we get that back? Because I don't want to go to a bar. You know?
Yeah.
I want to go somewhere else. I don't want to go to the mall either.
And also like to maybe talk about something that we're going to talk about later. That's kind of why I set my price point where it was. I charge $5 for I'm doing a quote unquote world tour. My Radical Sewing Club is typically at one space consistently every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But for March, I'm doing like a world tour across just like greater LA area. And I'm just in different community spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And that price point is going to be like $10. Then that's just because I have to drive more places, and like the scheduling the car between my wife and I is awful. But I was thinking about like, okay, this idea of like a safe space to go hang out, and I hated going to shows and buying a beer because I felt like you're supposed to.
Exactly.
And like I don't want to go a show and buy a beer or like have a drink, or like, you know, like it feels like you have to spend like $10-12 just to be out somewhere. And so I wanted, and like I should be charging more. Like like I don't recommend you pricing your club at $5. It's ridiculously low.
That's ridiculous.
But I also am I'm a broke baby. I'm very bad with money, and I wanted to create a space where like people could come to consistently every week and pay for it. Mm-hmm. And that was my thought process, was like, how much would you pay every week to kind of like do the same thing? And so I like, that was a huge like conversation. Even with my wife, I was like discussing with her a lot, like, what do you think? Like, is it stupid, you know? But I'm like, no, I'm broke. Like, we're married. Like, I know how much money we have together. And like, this isn't like, if it was more than $10 for both of us a week, we wouldn't go weekly. That's like not an activity we would do.
It would be a lot.
And so like, yeah, so I was really trying to, and again, this is like part of the accessibility thing, but I want to make it so like everybody feels like they can do it and they have a space to come to consistently.
I think that's amazing. And it really, you know, it leads to kind of like the first question I was going to ask you about Radical Sewing Club, which is like, why did you start it?
Yeah, so I worked at a flower shop. It was a very mom and pop situation, and the main manager, it was this older woman and her daughter, and she was a hardcore thrifter and a hardcore hoarder.
They do go
Once they-
hand in hand, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so once they figured out that I like sewing, the daughter was like, please take my mom's things. Please, I'll sneak them out. I'll like whatever. Like, please take my mom's things.
Yeah.
And so I worked there for a little over a year. And over that time, they gave me so much stuff. And they gave me like giant, like my arms spread wide, long, and like deep boxes of like fabric and hoops and all this stuff. It was so much. And at the time I was like, oh, cool. Like I've got craft supplies forever. And like, I'm a summer camp counselor for like my whole life. I'm not anymore, but like this is my entire like adolescence. And so like I could do any craft ever, forever. Like just any craft you can think of, I can do it just because I've taught it. I've run the program, whatever. And so I was like, yes, craft supplies. It's just in my blood. You hoard them. And I had so much that, like I said before, like I have this resource. What do I do with it? And how do I use this? And then being a summer camp kid, it was YMCA summer camp. And if you've ever seen a movie about summer camp, that's exactly what it was. It's just that. So I wanted to service my community because I had left the summer camp program and I had done it my whole life. I'd been going since I was like 6 years old, and I was trying to figure out, how do I continue to service my community in a way that's not summer camp? And that feeling was just the main biggest thing that like summer camp left me with. Like I am 100% the person I am today because of that campground. And I don't think every camp is the same, but this camp just like hit me hard in my bones. Like that philosophy of like, we service our people. Everything you do is like trying to be an example of a good person for other people. And so I had all this resources of textiles, and I started with the idea of like a Patreon, and like maybe I could put together like kits and like use up the supplies through putting together different craft kits. And so it started with that, and I did, like I had said earlier, I started in 2023. I did like I did one event in like January of 2023 on Patreon, and like one person showed up and they were very awesome, and we did like a little like video hang sewing, and that was very sweet. And then my friend from summer camp, who now works with Compton Girls Club, asked me to run like a workshop with them, and that was my first one ever, and I had so much anxiety. I was so nervous, and it went so well. It was awesome. And then like somebody else asked me like, hey, I saw you did Compton Girls Club. Could you come do one with us? And it was like, as soon as I was out there, people were asking for it, which was crazy. Like, as it just showed me the need for it and the want for it. Cause I also get questions a lot. Like people want me at their events, and like people want sewing. They want repair. It's the thirst and the want and the desire is out there. And so like, I would love for more people to start sewing clubs, because I can't be everywhere. Right. Even in just greater LA, people are asking for it. And so, yeah, a big part of it was just having that excess of resources. And then since then, I've like re-upped my resources by just putting a post out. Like people know who I am, they reach out and they want to donate, and without me asking. And then when I ask, people donate a lot. So many people have like excess sewing supplies, and they don't want to just throw it at Goodwill or whatever thrift store. Like they know what they have is valuable to somebody, and they're just holding on to it. There's so many people out there. There's so many people who have sewing machines, and they're like, I don't know if it works. Like take it. I have like 5, and I've started to repair them with like sewing club fees, and like it's awesome because now I have sewing machines that work for people, and they just needed like one tune-up or repair or like a cleanup or whatever. But yeah, it was surprisingly easy. Just existing, like the desire was there. Like once I existed, people found me.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I so frequently hear from people who are like, I wish I knew how to sew. Like, I wish I knew how to fix things because, most of us no longer learn that from our parents. Our parents, like you teaching someone's mom how to sew. I'm like, yeah, adds up. Like, I don't think that a lot of our parents learned how to do that. It just sort of went away.
I was going to say this earlier. I think it's also like in thinking about like normal, average people, the everyday American, in shopping fast fashion, so many people have clothes where just the seam split open and it seems so easy. It seems like an easy fix. It looks like, and it is, it's a super easy fix. And like, I think there's more people thinking about it now because of fast fashion. Because fast fashion rips open so easily, more people are looking at that and being like, well, I could probably fix that, right? Like, it may, like, I just bought this shirt. I wore it once. Like, I should, like, it's there. Like, it's making people think about it, which is really awesome, actually.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I'm like excited that people are talking about this and want to learn how to do it, because I feel like that was not the case 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even. And now people are like, yes, give me the skills. Let's take a moment to thank some of the incredible small businesses who keep Clotheshorse going via their generous Patreon support. Spokes and Stitches is a size-inclusive pattern making and sewing studio based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Pattern maker Ruby Gertz teaches workshops for hobbyists and aspiring designers so that anyone can learn the foundational skills of designing and making their own clothes. If you're looking to expand your design skills beyond following store-bought patterns, check out Ruby's flagship Sloper Workshop, an in-person 2-day pattern-making retreat where you will learn how to drape a set of basic block patterns that capture your unique shape and proportions. You can use these basic block or sloper patterns as a foundation for infinite styles of garments that are custom made to your body's one-of-a-kind contours. No more full bust, flat seat, or sway back adjustments. Start with a foundation that fits. Ruby also provides professional services such as pattern digitization, size charts, pattern making, and grading services for indie slow fashion brands that want to prioritize inclusive sizing. You can find Ruby on Instagram at Spokes and Stitches and get in touch with her for professional services at www.spokesandstitches.com. Selena Sanders, a social impact brand that specializes in upcycle clothing using only reclaimed vintage or thrifted materials, from tea towels, linens, blankets, and quilts. Sustainably crafted in Los Angeles, each piece is designed to last in one's closet for generations to come. Maximum style, minimal carbon footprint. Shift clothing out of beautiful Astoria, Oregon, with a focus on natural fibers, simple hardworking designs, and putting fat people first. Discover more at shiftwheeler.com. Late to the party, creating one-of-a-kind statement clothing from vintage, salvaged, and thrifted textiles. They hope to tap into the dreamy memories we all hold. Floral curtains, a childhood dress, the wallpaper in your best friend's rec room. All while creating modern, sustainable garments that you'll love wearing and have for years to come. Late to the Party is passionate about celebrating and preserving textiles, the memories they hold, and the stories they have yet to tell. Check them out on Instagram at Late to the Party People. Vino Vintage, based just outside of LA. We love the hunt of shopping secondhand because you never know what you might find. Catch us at flea markets around Southern California by following us on Instagram at vino.vintage so you don't miss our next event. Dylan Page is an online clothing and lifestyle brand based out of St. Louis, Missouri. Our products are chosen with intention for the conscious community. Everything we carry is animal-friendly, ethically made, sustainably sourced, and cruelty-free. Dylan Page is for those who never stop questioning where something comes from. We know that personal experience dictates what's sustainable for you, and we are here to help guide and support you to make choices that fit your needs. Check us out at dylanpage.com and find us on Instagram at dylanpage life and style. Salt Hats, purveyors of truly sustainable hats, hand-blocked, sewn, and embellished in Detroit, Michigan. Find us on Instagram at Salt Hats. Gentle Vibes Vintage. We are purveyors of polyester and psychedelic relics. We encourage experimentation and play not only in your wardrobe, but in your home too. We have thousands of killer vintage pieces ready for their next adventure. See them all on Instagram at Gentle Vibes Vintage. Thumbprint is Detroit's only fair trade marketplace, located in the historic Eastern Market. Our small business specializes in products handmade by empowered women in South Africa, making a living wage, creating things they love like hand-painted candles and ceramics. We also carry a curated assortment of sustainable and natural locally made goods. Thumbprint is a great gift destination for both the special people in your life and for yourself. Browse our online store at thumbprintdetroit.com and find us on Instagram at thumbprintdetroit. Vagabond Vintage DTLV is a vintage clothing, accessories, and decor reselling business based in downtown Las Vegas, Nevada. Not only do we sell in Las Vegas, but we're also located throughout resale markets in San Francisco, as well as at a curated boutique called Lux and Ivy, located in Indianapolis, Indiana. Jessica, the founder and owner of Vagabond Vintage DTLV, recently opened the first IRL location located in the Arts District of downtown Las Vegas on August 5th. The shop has a strong emphasis on 60s and 70s garments, single-stitch tees, and dreamy loungewear. Follow them on Instagram at Vagabond Vintage DTLV and keep an eye out for their website coming fall of 2022. So, speaking of fast fashion, then I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about how you run Radical Sewing Club, etc. But talking about fast fashion is it's a question I just have had. How do you feel about people repairing fast fashion?
I love it.
Same.
I know it's okay, so I love people repairing their own fast fashion.
Right.
Now, as somebody who works at Sway and we take in repairs, there's a lot of people who have pieces who want them repaired, and we have to tell them that, like, we can maybe give you a couple more months, maybe a year in your item. And that's hard because it's hard to tell somebody that, like, maybe we can't do this for you. But in terms of, like, teaching somebody to sew, it's really, it's such a low risk. Like, it's a cheap item already. So I love that I can teach somebody how to sew on something that, like, if they don't do a good job, they already knew, like, it didn't maybe have a whole life. And that feels different than, like, making somebody pay me to fix their item, you know, like that's a different kind of thing. But I love people repairing their own fast fashion because I think it's low risk because it's cheap clothing anyway, but also it's radical because it's meant to be thrown away. So that's awesome. And also it's just like, it's thinner material. It is easier to learn how to sew on it. Like, you're not sewing through, like, super dense denim. So it's really easy to teach people how to sew on a denim patch and do sashiko style stitching or whatever, or even just, like, sewing, like, a folded, like, with the hems over, like, patch, like, through layers of denim. Like, that's hard. And when it's, like, that thin jean material, it is a lot easier. And I think because it's easier, it makes people feel more confident. Because when things are hard in the beginning, it makes you want to quit. And so, like, they can sew it, they can feel it, they can experience it. And then they can also experience, like, oh, I sewed a patch on this and now the fabric's ripping because this fabric is shit. Like, not my sewing is shit, the fabric is shit. And so it also, like, kind of in, like, in early childhood education, there's this, like, philosophy and style and place. It's a whole thing. It's called Reggio Emilia, and it's kind of like letting the child guide their own learning. And I feel like it's kind of like that. Like, yeah, I'm going to show you how to sew on this piece of shit fabric, on this piece of shit item. And you're going to learn, and then you're going to wear it, and you're going to feel how that like maybe sucks because this garment sucks. You don't suck. Your sewing didn't suck. Your garment sucks. And now you're radicalized. And now you can like look at other clothing differently. And when you purchase your clothing, you could think about it differently. And maybe it'll stop you from buying fast fashion. And, you know, like I think like there's a little bit of like brainwashing manipulation happening for me to like radicalize people.
No, I think it's good. I think people need to learn things by doing. And it's more than just learning sewing. It's learning about what you're sewing and why. I mean, I think it's incredible. I think that sometimes you can yell at people all day like fast fashion is low quality and the fabric is shitty and you deserve better and blah 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 blah, but like sometimes you just don't get it until you have to experience it firsthand and see why it sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Like having your seam rip on something like sometimes doesn't change your mind, but having to repair it and then see it rip again is like, wait. Like I did the thing correctly. Yeah. Like, why is this still terrible? And it's just like, cause it's all terrible, bro. Like everything's fucked. Like it just, we got to change everything.
Yeah. We got to change everything. It's a fact. So I'm glad that you are I don't know, like pro people repairing fast fashion. I obviously feel the same way.
It's also like it's worth it. Like even like I'm wearing fast fashion jeans and I altered them so they fit my waist better with like a really simple just like dart in the back. And that's a form of repair, like making your clothes fit you better. And like even when I did it a little bit too tight and I'm pretty curvy. So I was like, oh shit, I might sit down and these might split open when I'm at work. But also that was kind of a risk I was willing to take, but because like it's cheap fabric, I'm not sure how well these are going to hold out. And they're holding out pretty good. And I'm glad I took the risk. And like it's like a big, like I've talked about accessibility, like I don't have the money to buy a $70, $100, whatever. I don't even know how much expensive jeans cost because I've never bought a pair.
I think they're like way more than that. I think they're like $200 or something.
Yeah. And then also I'm fat. Like I'm not going to find a pair of jeans that fits me well and I'm going to feel comfy in because they're going to like nice jeans are thick. That doesn't feel good on my tummy tum. No. And so like I don't feel comfortable in nice clothes. I can't afford nice clothes. And so a big part of me like starting repairing fast fashion came from like not being able to afford it and having to constantly buy a new pair of jeans every 3 to 6 months because of thigh blowouts. And I was just tired of it. And like, you can darn it and you can give yourself more time. And like, I started like I was wearing like the same pair of like Hot Topic skinny jeans in restaurants because I worked in restaurants for a long time, and I was wearing the same pair of like Hot Topic skinny jeans. I bought like 4 pairs, and I would have a thigh blowout and cut them into shorts, and then I'd buy a new pair and have a thigh blowout and cut them into shorts. And I was like, I can't keep doing this. And like I like my first like repair on my clothing was like a sashiko style patch, and like I don't love what I did. It was my first repair and I've got like huge like folded seams right in the crotch and it's very thick and it's not awesome. But like I still have those jeans and like yes, they're fast fashion, but also like I do still have them and they do still like they're still great and like yeah, they're wearing out again and I could put another patch or something. And it just like I think I'm just consistently coming from the place of like, if I don't have the money for it, I'm sure like 100 million other people also don't have the money for it.
Right.
Like, you said jeans are more than $100. That shit blew my mind. I could never like, no, I don't have that.
I swear they're like, at least I don't wear jeans. So I'm like the least reliable person to ask this, but my husband does. And we were looking at jeans before online, and I felt like they were all more than $200. Like for nice jeans. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's wild.
I know. I can't believe. Like, I remember the first time I bought a pair of jeans that were $100, and I was like, basically, I'm a 1%er now. Right? And now that would be like, yeah, those are okay jeans.
Yeah.
You know?
I just got into jeans. Like I wore black skinny jeans for like work and stuff, but also like the jeans, quote unquote. Like, you know, that's not,
I know. Yeah.
You know? And I like I'm an emo kid. Like I graduated in the early 2000s. Like I'm cursed by jeans. Like they were, again, I'm fat. I'm an emo kid. And like in early 2000s, all the jeans, which like, sorry, Kendrick, the wide flares aren't doing it for me. And that was the only option we had.
Oh,
like,
gosh.
The only option.
I saw them, like, I was like watching the halftime show, and I was like, yeah, he looks amazing. This is sick. Those jeans are triggering to me. Like, I personally...
So many people our age just, like, died a little inside.
First off, the thing that was... And I was telling my husband this. I was like... Because my husband is very tall. So he has never had the problem of the pants being, like, 4 inches, 5 inches too long. And they're like, dragging on the ground and getting under your shoes. And, like... I have never been the kind of person who's like, I'm going to wear heels with these jeans, you know, which people would do then. People would do that.
Yep.
But I was like, seeing him, like, I'm worried he's going to trip on these jeans. That wash is triggering because that's what jeans look like then. I know that these are low rise. I can tell. They look like they're like Miss 60 or something. You know, like I was like, I can't. Like I cannot look. I have to only look at him from the waist up for the rest of this performance because the jeans are upsetting me so much. And then I had to like watch the performance a second time so I could fully absorb it and not think about the jeans anymore. But yeah, no, I have a very complex relationship with jeans basically because of the first 10 years of this century. Yeah.
And they were all low rise. I had no idea that high rise was comfortable, that like you could bend over and nothing's shows. Like what? I had no clue. It was life-changing when I found high-waisted pants. Like I had no idea.
I can't believe anyone would ever voluntarily wear low-rise jeans after they know how great high-rise ones are. That's my feeling on it. Because the first time I put on a pair of high-rise jeans, I was like, my butt crack is warm and covered.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. They stay there.
Yeah, this is wild.
Crazy.
I'm not adjusting my pants all day. And I remember I would ride my bike all over the place in these low-rise jeans, and it would be raining, and there'd be like rain going in my butt because jeans were like creeping down as I pedal my bike. And I'm just like, no. So I have like very complicated feelings with jeans.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about like Radical Sewing Club. Like, what does a typical session look like? Like, what happens when people get there? What do you do? How long does it last?
Yeah, so it's not a workshop. A lot of people, I think, expect like to come in and everybody's doing the exact same thing, learning the exact same steps together. It's not that. That is awesome. And I accidentally had a sewing club recently where like 2 people were regulars and everybody else was brand new.
Whoa.
It's like, yeah, it was super random. And so I had like 10 new people all at once. And my regulars is like somebody who became a regular very recently, and they started bringing their Cricut machine and they're making me labels from my like organizer boxes. So they just did that the whole time. Like 2 people just like, I love community. Like that's what community is. Like somebody came to Sewing Club and was like, I love sewing. You taught me a lot. And now I'm going to use my Cricut to make you labels. Like that's fucking awesome. I love her. She's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I think that like points to something too, that like you're going to have people doing all kinds of different things. Like it's almost like it's more about like being there together.
Yeah. So a typical sewing club is, I'm 10 minutes late because I just came from work and I'm sorry. And
fair.
And then like, so I've like thrifted like all of my sewing organizer situation and like carrying and moving around situation. So I have like a red wagon with the fabric that's really cool, like the whatever. And then I have these like caboodles basically, and I've been able to get like matching caboodles, which is really like pink glitter ones. I'm very stoked on. And so all the tables have like various supplies, and then my wagon I fill with all my fabric scraps. I just have like this giant IKEA bag and I just dump it in the wagon. And so we have a fabric wagon and we have all our table of stuff, and people just like come in at whatever time. Like sometimes we have people that are there early because it's also just like a community space. There's a coffee shop in there. There's a bookstore in the space that I'm in, and it's also an art gallery. So it's just like a space to be in already. So people show up and just hang out, and then just meet, like trickle in as whenever they come. And so I kind of just talk to people as they come in. And I consistently have regulars who just continue working on their own projects, but people, which is what I want, is they bring in their own item to be repaired. And so everybody is doing something completely different. It's very chaotic, and it's like luckily my community members are so amazing and awesome, and also like because of this I end up like doing rounds and spending a few minutes with each person individually. And my wife regularly comes to sewing club and she'll be like, sewing club was so great, we all talked about this and that, whatever. And I'm like, who are you talking about? Who did you talk, like when did you talk about this? I didn't get to talk about this. Like I don't unfortunately get to partake in that part of community of Radical Sewing Club because I'm individually teaching people.
Right.
But apparently people have great times, they're all making friends, and like because I'm checking in individually, sometimes people have to sit and wait because I'll be like, thread your needle, like cut your thread your needle, tie a knot, and that's 5 minutes for somebody. Like I'll walk away and they've got to like it takes them a while to figure that out because just those steps can be difficult for some people. And so it's kind of like, do this step and then I'm going to come back and show you the next step. So I kind of teach like that. And then depending on the skill level, they can do so many steps or not without me. And so I kind of just circle around and check in with different people, and everybody's doing something different. I have somebody who's been consistent since like day one. And they like have a few skills really honed, and they have like mastered like all of the beginning parts of like my basic stitches I teach people, and like how to thread your needle and do knots and stuff like that. And so I have that person just like at camp we do it too, but like each one teach one, you know? And so like you came to sewing club, you learned how to do a back stitch. Now you teach the person next to you how to do a back stitch. And I love that. And I love seeing people teach each other. And I love like, it's also like reinforcing it for the person who's teaching it. 'Cause they have to like, to teach something, you have to understand it. So it forces you to think about it differently. And do you actually know how to do this thing? Which is awesome. 'Cause I see people like, wait, I don't remember. Let's ask Scout, which is awesome. Like, yeah, cool. Like, let's get you better at this thing. So that's been really awesome. I also just like had somebody, like I have people who ask, like, do you need volunteers? And for a long time, I was very like hesitant. Like I said, like I was very nervous about who I let in. And I'm trying to be more open and be more casual about it. So somebody came recently, and like last night was their second sewing club, and they were already just like jumped in, helped like set up. And then like I have 2 sewing machines set up, and they just like got on and started teaching somebody. Like there's somebody who came to sewing club that I'd had like 2 sentences with, and they like came and patched the crotch of their pants on a sewing machine and left happy, and they knew what they were doing. And like I didn't talk to them that much, and I kind of love that. Like not that I don't have to talk to people, but just that like sewing club is big enough that it's almost like it can do itself. And I love that. I love that so many people are like sharing their skills with my community.
No, I love that. I mean, that's like one of the benefits of this, right? It's not, like you said, it's not a workshop, which is also a great thing to do, but it's more like this, like interactive, like relationship building sort of events, like you can share your skills with someone else. You can learn their skills too. You can also just have the benefit of like sitting next to someone and working on something that can feel like a chore and like you're actually like having a fun social time while you're doing it, And so
Yeah.
it's like, it's all these benefits. So like, how long does sewing club usually last?
So, I've been running sewing clubs since I've had a full-time job, so it's usually after work for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So right now it's 6:30 to 9 every week. I think that's a great amount of time. I
I think
think
so too.
2 to 3 hours is awesome. It like 6 to 9 versus 6:30 to 9 would be better, but like I said, I'm already 10 minutes late almost every time, so it's like I couldn't even get there. But I think like 2 to 3 hours is a great amount of time. It gives people enough time to feel confident and then start a project. And then because I have so much surplus, I always am like, take your needle. Like that's my biggest expense in sewing club is the needles and the embroidery hoops, because those are the things that I let people take home a lot, and those are the things that I don't get donated. Which makes sense. Like embroidery hoops, like old ones are old and they're harder to use. They're not very expensive. They're made out of bamboo, which feels good. And then, sewing needles, just old ones, they get dull. Like a lot of people don't know that. Your sewing needles can get dull. It's a thing.
No, it's a true story. And I've learned that lesson the hard way by trying to sew with the same needle for like 3 years and being like, why does my hand hurt? When did
Through
sewing get hard?
denim,
Yeah, exactly. So, that brings up another question that I had, which is like, when people come to Radical Sewing Club, like they're just bringing what they're going to repair, right? Like is there an expectation that people should be bringing scissors or anything
no,
like that?
I have like it's basically like at the least, just bring yourself.
Okay.
Just, that's it. Bring yourself. I have embroidery hoops and I have a ton of scrap fabric. So if you have brought nothing, because sometimes I get people who are like, I don't know, my friend told me to meet them here. Like I don't even know what we're doing. Yeah. I had some where we're at, the space we're at is like next to like a car dealer, like a small car dealership, and there's this woman who was like helping her cousin buy a car last night, and she was like getting bored with the process, so she just came over and sat down and picked up a hoop and started sewing and like learning like the daisy stitch, and then like was like, oh wait, I gotta go back and intervene, and like left, chatted, and then came back again, and she's just in it, just this random person. And like I don't think she knows what Radical Sewing Club is. Like she doesn't, like she just came in and was like, oh, you all are doing stuff, let me come in and do stuff. And like I'm not great at asking people for money, so there's never, if you are gonna run your own sewing club, make it a point to ask for money, because I forget every single time. But I think what I'm going to do, especially for tour, is like have a specific table with like a bucket or like a thing, like put money here, with like QR codes or whatever. But I'm not great at asking people for money, so I don't even think she knew it was like a thing that you would have to pay for. She was like, yeah, let me come in and sit down and like just sew or whatever, which I love. Like that's what I want. Like that, it's a community space, and it's not just if you know about it community. It's like, yeah, if you're here literally in this community physically, let's go. Like let's sew. Come on in.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, actually. Like, you will, like, be surprised by how, like, the impact of her just dropping in randomly, like, what's going to happen next in her life or how she's going to think about that. Like, I actually think it's really, really cool that randos can come,
I also like sometimes meeting people like that is like, I would love to just spend a day in your life. Like, what is your life like that you just did this? I
know.
Like
I know. Like, I actually am like kind of like admire this person, because I would have too much anxiety to just like go in there. And so I feel like this person has like magical like charisma or fearlessness or something, and I like want to know more about them, you know?
Yeah, I mean, she was the one that was brought to help purchase the car, so she probably does have high charisma.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, tell me more. I also like I'm the last person you would bring to go buy a car too. So like this is all very interesting to me. Okay, so let's talk about the money side of it, because I think many of us, I'm the same way. It is like I just like don't ask people for money. It feels really uncomfortable to me, and so it's really easy for me to like forget about it because I don't want to think about it and do it, right? But like the reality is all of these kinds of projects do require money in some way or another, even if it's just because you're buying embroidery hoops, but also like you're driving your car there.
I'm
you're taking
doing
your time.
stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
But you know what? You know what? The thing that I honestly like, I wish I could phrase it this way is like, you don't have to pay for sewing club, but could you please pay me for the hours I spend cleaning, organizing, sanitizing, rewrapping these threads? Like I have a whole day, and I don't have days off anymore. Like I work 2 jobs. I work every day. I have to spend so many hours like putting everything back where it's supposed to go. But I also like I sani wipe everything, like not weekly, but like I'm trying. Like I would love to get there. And like it's things that like it's that kind of work that I'm like, I would love to get paid for this 3 hours I have to sit. Like I get bored. Like even if I'm watching something or listening to like I'm bored. I'm at work. Like I have to do this thing. And yeah, that's the time I would really like to be paid for.
I think that's totally fair, but I think that so many of us, especially if we're like we've come up in like the punk DIY space. Like I was reading Kathleen Hanna's autobiography recently, and she talked about how like, you know, when Bikini Kill moved to DC, and like Bikini Kill was like super working class, like everybody had to work in order to like pay rent and stuff like that. But a lot of other people in the DIY scene in DC at that time in the 90s, like they were rich kids, right? And so like they could play shows for free. They could give things away. They could, you know, they didn't have to worry. And for them, it was like, we like low key are like, can't pay for rent and food. Like we need to be paid for our work. And we can't ask because we look like assholes. And I think that like most of us who are afraid to ask people to pay us for our work or time or whatever we've brought to the table, interestingly enough, are often the people who actually don't have a lot of financial privilege, which I just think is so ironic, right?
That's so interesting because like I also think a lot about the people who charge like $75 for like a 1-hour workshop where they teach one kind of repair skill and that's it. And I have a lot of internal conflict about that. And like the anti-capitalist in me is like, what are you doing with that profit? Like you have a surplus of resource now. What are you going to do with that? And I would love to make even $75 a week from Sewing Club. Like I think last night was a total like 20 maybe. And it's just like sometimes a lot of people come and sometimes a few. Sometimes people pay $5 because it's $5, pay what you can. And sometimes people pay $5, sometimes they pay none, sometimes they pay 20, and that's awesome. But yeah, I don't have money, so it's hard for me to ask people for money because I'm like, if I don't have it, I don't think you've got it. Like I feel pretty like medium like pretty average in terms of like the average American income household situation, and I'm like, we don't got extra money, so I don't think you got extra money. Like it's a really interesting point you make because I feel like it is the people who don't have it that are like struggle to ask for it, which is incorrect. Like we should be able to ask for it, you know, like, hey bro, I really actually do need this money. Even in saying that, like me and my wife talked about this. Her job was affected by the fires and she was out of work for a week, and that put a huge dent in our personal life. But we didn't lose anything. We didn't lose our house. She still has her job. Like we're fine. And so it's so hard to be in that kind of place and even think like, should we ask for help? Like,
right.
you know?
Right. No,
like,
I totally feel that same way.
It's so hard because it's just like, we didn't lose our house. We didn't lose our neighborhood. Like, we're not part of that. We're so far from it. We weren't like exactly affected, but we were because she didn't work for a week and that sucked. And that was rough on our bills.
Yeah.
If you want to start your own sewing club, I strongly suggest starting with asking people for their donations because people have it. It's out there.
Yeah.
But the things that I do have to purchase are needles and hoops. And I'm not afraid to say this out loud. I purchase a lot of my supplies from Amazon and Walmart, and that sucks. Both of them are terrible companies. Walmart shut down its DEI program. That is awful. Mm-hmm. But I'm a broke baby, and I want people to use tools that they can access themselves. I can't let them take home all of my seam rippers and all of my scissors, but I can let them use tools that they, or even like a speed weave, a little mini loom. Those are like $6 on Amazon. And so like, I want them to use tools that they can feel confident on, and then they can go purchase themselves. I don't want them to learn a skill that they have to go somewhere to use my tools because I have the expensive ones, or I have the only, like, you know, I'm like, I want this to be accessible for everybody. And unfortunately, that means utilizing like companies like that. But in a really big way, I also believe in local jobs. And there's a lot of people who work at Amazon and Walmart locally that have jobs. So it is still people in my community. But yeah, I source my tools for as cost effective as I can for the kind of people I want to learn how to sew. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I also, like, if you're rich, you can learn how to sew, but like, give me more money, please.
Yeah, no, seriously. And, you know, I want to say about like buying the tools from Amazon or Walmart, like the reality is that there's still a major net win here, and something I feel like I'm constantly like screaming at people about, but in a really pleasant way, is like, this shit is complicated. And it is not your problem to come up with the perfect solution, because in this situation, there is not a perfect solution for you. And you're actually making this really positive change that does have a positive impact in teaching people these skills, getting them excited and empowered to repair their stuff, and ultimately, you know, opt out of like fast fashion, or at least the cycle of fast fashion, things coming in so fast and out so fast that actually this is a major win. And yeah, I mean, when we talk about like not buying stuff from Amazon or Walmart, like obviously would they be my first picks? No. But what are the other options? And they do employ people locally. Like, it's not, I would be like, if you were like, and I buy all my stuff from Temu, I'd be a little bit more like, okay.
That one, I can't with the Temu and the Alibaba. Like, if you're buying something for cents, for less than $5, like, you have to know there's slavery behind it. Like,
absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
Period. Like, there's slavery in your item, what you're wearing, and like saying that I'm wearing thrifted like Shein jeans, and like I have so much internal conflict about like, is it okay if it's thrifted? Like, I don't know, but again, I'm a broke baby, and these are the kind of internal conflicts that, like, I hope if you're purchasing these things, at least you're thinking about it, because that's the first step in us trying to change the world.
Absolutely. And these are all impactful things. I think, honestly, when it comes to like thrifting Shein, I'm like, people should, if they're going to wear it, because people suffered to make that. Materials were wasted to make that. It's shipped across the world in an airplane to get it here. Like, we should get the maximum amount of use out of it. And honestly, by doing that, we're sort of disrupting the cycle a little bit. Like,
yeah.
And once again, nothing is ever going to be like so clearly good or bad, because these systems are complicated and they are not stacked in our favor. And so if you like I said, I would be like not buying sewing supplies from Temu. That feels so fucked up to me in like so many ways. But like buying them from Walmart or Amazon, I'm like, ugh. You know, and people will always, I got to tell you, every time I talk about Temu, online or Shein, people will what about me so hard. It makes me want to like scream. They'll be like, well, what about prison labor? And I'm like, right. But right now we're talking about Temu and Shein. Or like, what about Amazon? And I'm like, right. But like, once again, right now we're talking about Temu and Shein. Like, you can't come in here.
I'm just going to throw this out there. If you're going to use a what about argument, you are a Trumper, period. Even if you don't think you are, you are. Fuck off.
That's how I feel when people show up like, well, what about this? And I'm like, yeah, that sucks. So does Temu. We're talking about Temu right now. You're trying to get me to say to you, Amazon sucks too, so you may as well buy from Temu, or prison labor sucks, so you may as well buy from Temu. And I'm like, you just want me to give you permission to buy shit from Temu. And you're not going to get that from me, right?
And then that goes back to the thing of like, people want to do good.
Right.
They want to be a good person. They want to be told that the way that they're living their life is good. And like, that's not possible. Nobody can exist in a fully clean living. That person whose house that's out in the rural area that you're following that has a completely green life existence, the fact that they're online means that they're not green. Period.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Period.
Yeah. Ugh. I get so frustrated with that kind of stuff all the time. I'm like, there are better, some options are better than others, and none will ever be perfect. And to me, thrifting some Shein jeans and wearing the shit out of them is like way better than buying new ones from anywhere, really. And buying tools to teach people how to repair clothes from Amazon or Walmart is better than buying them from Temu. And like, that's just how it is. And I think that sometimes people get in their own way looking for perfection and they like give up, which sucks. And I hate that. And I know that feeling. But I think sometimes people are aware of that there being no perfect option, and that becomes their excuse to only do things the shittiest way.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
You talked about it. It's like the doomerism.
Yeah.
Like, well, everything's fucked, so fuck it. I do fall into that feeling. I do get it. And especially like now in the current political state we're in here in America, I do fall into that feeling of like, well, fuck this. Like, I'm just going to go do my own thing. But like, also like, nothing will ever change. And like, are we done, or have we all decided that we're done now? Like, the whole human beings existing, like if we're done, I guess we're done, but we're super not.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Like, things are horrible right now, for sure. But real talk, they've kind of been horrible for a long time. And what has kept them from getting more horrible, and in some ways even getting better, is that people have been involved and didn't say like, well, fuck it, I give up, I'm just waiting for societal collapse or whatever. I'm like, no. Like, we actually, like, we are what will make things better and keep people safe and turn around the horribleness, or at least keep the horribleness in check. And that's why when people are like, whatever, I see people posting this all the time on social, like, I'm checked out, I don't give a fuck about anybody but my family from now on, peace to all of you. And I'm like, wow, you're cool.
Yeah.
Really showed the rest of us.
It's so crazy too, because like, you can also look at like LA as a huge example. Like, people think about Hollywood as Hollywood, but we're also Los Angeles, a city that's existed for a long time with a ton of different kinds of people here. And after the fires, like, so many people were supporting so many more people. We had food and space, like safe spaces and clothing and shoes and, you know, like, so many opportunities and so many like individuals and businesses and big brands were there to help everybody who needed it. And it's just, again, like, people want to do good, and if you show them how, they will. And it's really, we just have to keep showing. And again, this is like, I'm thinking about my trash activism. Like, if you show people how to throw away their trash and like how to make it like into all the correct places, they will. Like, people want to recycle. They want to like keep things like in circulation. They like, everybody wants that. They just don't know how.
Yeah, no, there's this like theory out there that's been proven by data that you only need 3.5% of the population to be engaging in like resistance and like revolutionary radical action, which can be as simple as, you know, mending. It can also mean like protesting and calling your senators, like things like that. You only need 3.5% of people in a given area to be engaging in that to actually affect radical change in the status quo and end like government policies and fucked up shit that's happening, change just the entire like quality of life in that area. And this has been proven time and time again by history. And so I actually like sometimes I'll see like I don't know, today I was watching this live stream of this protest at the train station in LA because the new Secretary of Transportation, who of course is like a shithead, is there giving this speech about how they're cutting the high-speed rail project. And the camera's like on him and like the stage or whatever, but in the background, people are chanting because like I saw this come together on Reddit. Like all these LA people were like, we're showing up, we're resisting this. And it made me tear up, like hearing their voices and knowing that they're there. I was like, this is like, no matter how hopeless you feel right now, people are out there making a difference and you can be a part of that. And you won't be alone. Yeah. You won't be alone in it at all. Yeah, anyway, I'm getting emotional now thinking about it.
Yeah, I have always described it as like, I'm punk to my bones. Like, it's just in me. I will resist, like, whatever it is. Turns out it was neurodivergence, but it's still a feeling. It's still there.
It's still there, yeah. It still matters.
Yeah, and like, I'm so like in awe of the community because I've always felt it. I've always been it, but I've always been a part of like smaller like DIY communities. I grew up in Pomona. I would call it the Inland Empire. The Inland Empire would not call Pomona that. Whatever. We can fight about that later. But I grew up in that area and I was part of a small DIY music scene there. And then, that's it. Like that was our whole community. And like, some people played shows in LA, but that was like one time you played a show in LA, but like, this is our community. This is our core. This is who we talk to. And like, since creating Radical Sewing Club, the amazing organization, I think just because of maybe the space that I was in and the political like groups that, are like hosting me, I'm like hosted by a communist bookstore. They're very politically active. And like, I think just like by association, I, got like eyes from Mutual Aid LA. And so I feel like Mutual Aid LA, they've been consistently posting my flyers. They have like a weekly roundup and they've included Radical Sewing Club in their weekly roundup of like radical politicized things you can do for your community. And it's like, it felt like it validated my radical politicalness, which is really cool. But it also like, for everybody who's looking at it, can feel like they can resist through sewing. Like, that's so special, you know?
Yeah, I know. It is. It's resistance. It is resistance. And I think, like, especially if you're assigned female at birth, even though most of us did not grow up learning sewing, there's this implication still that, like, sewing is, like, women's work, and it can't be radical, it can't be revolutionary, it can't be political. And that is just so untrue. But, like, it's so counter to the society that we live in right now to make things and repair them.
Yeah, I really, so this is like random internet chisme, like gossip, but when I first got into like repair, I stumbled upon like this UK community of like politicized sewers who would like get together in public and sew in public. And like the internet drama part about it was like they had this specific like hashtag phrase that they were all using that rhymed, that was like really cool, about like repair your clothes, don't throw away your clothes. But they had their own specific phrase, and there was like this whole fight about who actually started that phrase and who was allowed to use it, which I thought was so funny. And I was like trying to be a part of it and was like, yeah, I'm going to do what they're doing. I'm going to use their phrase. I'm going to go sew in front of like a Forever 21 at the mall, you know? I thought that was so neat. And then like their whole phrase, like I found all this drama about it. I was like, ooh, never mind. I'm going to step away from that. And it was so crazy. I was like, oh, like it's just internet's fun to like peek into other people's fights, you know?
No, I love it. I spend way too much time just observing human nature on the internet. That's yeah. Okay, well, first off, I just want to say I still love the idea of sewing outside of Forever 21, though. Just putting that out there. You probably have to like bring your own lawn chair or something.
Yeah, no, that's what they were doing. It was so cool.
They
were
love
just
that.
Actively repairing their clothes in front of like fast fashion stores. And it was like that was their protest for the day. And I just quietly sitting and sewing together with like just being there, and people seeing you do that is naturally going to get people to ask you about what's going on. It's naturally going to start like the gears in their head turning. It's such an interesting form of protest. And like, I haven't even thought about this in so long, but now I'm like, maybe we could like do that with Radical Sewing Club. Like just have our little like sewing club protest.
If you're enjoying this episode, then this is a great time to remind you that my work here at Clotheshorse is made possible by the support of listeners like you, just like NPR, and these great small businesses. Please go give them your support. Blank Cass, or Blanket Coats by Cass, is focused on restoring, renewing, and reviving the history held within vintage and heirloom textiles. By embodying the love, craft, and energy that is original to each vintage textile as I transfer it into a new garment, I hope we can reteach ourselves to care for and mend what we have and make it last. Blank Cass lives on Instagram at _Cass, and a website will be launched soon at blankcass.com. Located in Whistler, Canada, Velvet Underground is a velvet jungle full of vintage and secondhand clothing, plants, a vegan cafe, and lots of rad products from other small sustainable businesses. Our mission is to create a brand and community dedicated to promoting self-expression, as well as educating and inspiring a more sustainable and conscious lifestyle, both for the people and the planet. Find us on Instagram at shop_Velvet Underground or online at www.shopvelvetunderground.com. St. Evens is a New York City-based vintage shop that is dedicated to bringing you those special pieces you'll reach for again and again. More than just a store, St. Evens is dedicated to sharing the stories and history behind the garments. 10% of all sales are donated to a different charitable organization each month. New vintage is released every Thursday at wearstevens.com with previews of new pieces and more, brought to you on Instagram at wear_st.evens. That's Wear St. Evens. Country Feedback is a mom and pop record shop in Tarboro, North Carolina. They specialize in used rock, country, and soul, and offer affordable vintage clothing and housewares. Do you have used records you want to sell? Country Feedback wants to buy them. Find us on Instagram at Country Feedback Vintage and Vinyl, or head down east and visit our brick and mortar. All are welcome at this inclusive and family-friendly record shop in the country. Republica Unicornia Yarns. Handmade yarn and notions for the color obsessed. Made with love and some swearing in fabulous Atlanta, Georgia by head yarn wench Kathleen. Get ready for rainbows with a side of giving a damn. Republica Unicornia is all about making your own magic using small batch, responsibly sourced, hand-dyed yarns and thoughtfully made notions. Slow fashion all the way down and discover the joy of creating your very own beautiful hand-knit, crocheted, or woven pieces. Find us on Instagram at Republica_Unicornia_yarns and at www.republicaunicornia.com. Picnic Wear, a slow fashion brand ethically made by hand from vintage and dead stock materials, most notably vintage towels. Founder Danny has worked in the industry as a fashion designer for over 10 years, but started Picnic Wear in response to her dissatisfaction with the industry's shortcomings. Picnic Wear recently moved to rural North Carolina, where all their sewing and accessories are now designed and cut, but the majority of their sewing is done by skilled garment workers in New York City. Their customers take comfort in knowing that all their sewists are paid well above New York City minimum wage. Picnic Wear offers minimal waste and maximum authenticity. Future vintage over future garbage. Cute Little Ruin is an online shop dedicated to providing quality vintage and secondhand clothing, vinyl, and home items in a wide range of styles and price points. If it's ethical and legal, we try to find a home for it. Vintage style with progressive values. Find us on Instagram at Cute Little Ruin. Is there a little bit of Italy in your soul? Are you an enthusiast of pre-loved decor and accessories? Bring vintage Italian style and history into your space with the Pewter Thimble. We source useful and beautiful things and mend them where needed. We also find gorgeous illustrations and make them print-worthy. Tarot cards, tea towels, and hand-picked treasures available to you from the comfort of your own home. Responsibly sourced from across Rome, lovingly renewed by fairly paid artists and artisans, with something for every budget. Discover more at thepewterthimble.com. Deco Denim is a startup based out of San Francisco, and it sells clothing and accessories that are sustainable, gender fluid, size inclusive, and high quality, made to last for years to come. Deco Denim is trying to change the way you think about buying clothes. Founder Sarah Mattis wants to empower people to ask important questions like, where was this made? Was this garment made ethically? Is this fabric made of plastic? Can this garment be upcycled? And if not, can it be recycled? Sign up at decodenim.com to receive $20 off your first purchase. They promise not to spam you and send out no more than 3 emails a month, with 2 of them surrounding education or a personal note from the founder. Again, that's decodenim.com. Can you tell me specifically, like, what materials and tools you think someone who's throwing a sewing club should supply and have there?
Yeah. Okay. So, scissors, needles, sewing hoops, but also like sewing hoops aren't necessary is a thing. Like you could or you couldn't, because I think you can easily hold a piece of fabric in your hand and sew it. Like that's something people have done for a long time. So sewing hoops are great, but also not necessary. Scissors, needles, hoops, fabric, literally, and then the thread. And I teach with embroidery floss because you can like pair it, like you can pull it down to small line work or thick or whatever, and it can be very versatile. So like at your base, that's it. And then I just have a ton of extra stuff because so many people have donated like random supplies. So like I have a ton of trim, I have buttons, I have like beads, I have like random stuff. So like when people have like I typically teach 3 stitches. I teach how to thread your needle, how to do a knot at the end, which I've been teaching people. I learned the quilter's knot, which is really cool. And like if you don't know what that is, go watch a video. It's awesome. And because I didn't like the things you don't think about is crazy. Like I didn't realize how hard it would be to teach people how to tie a knot on their thread.
No, it's harder than you think.
Yeah. And again, like I'm a craft kid, I'm a summer camp kid. Like I could tie like 18 different knots on my thread, and I didn't like, it's just a skill I have that I didn't know like would be hard to transfer for a lot of people. And there's this cool thing where people like wrap the thread around their finger and they just kind of rub it between their index finger and their thumb, and it becomes a knot or some shit. Like that's cool. But again, I can't do that. It doesn't work for me. So like I do a little of like, here's a couple ways to tie a knot. If you can't get it, however you tie a knot is your knot. That's it. Go for it. Like you did it. But that's one of the toughest ones. But I teach the back stitch, the blanket stitch, and the daisy stitch or the chain stitch. Like they're kind of the same. And so I just kind of picked like 3 stitches, and I felt like the back stitch was one that was important to me because it's the one that's like on every piece of clothing. So if you're gonna like repair your clothing, and a lot of times it's closing those seams up that rip open, this is something you can do that will like just, you can easily repair most anything and it'll look professional. It'll look good. Because a lot of people do a simple, what's called a running stitch, which is in and out with spaces in between the stitches, and it looks homemade, like it just will. So those are the 3 stitches I typically teach people, and then I teach them like, okay, like you've learned those stitches, now you can use any of those stitches to put a patch on something. Let's do that next. Now, okay, do you want to learn how to put a button on? Like, this is how you sew a button, and like, it seems like buttons would be straightforward. Like anybody could pick up a button and figure out how to sew it on, and they're not. Like they're just not. So yeah, basically scissors, needles, thread, fabric, but also like if you ask for donated supplies, your world can open up into what you can teach people based off what supplies you have. Yeah.
That's great. It's like what I like about it is it's like you're kind of keeping it simple. You're keeping it open-ended, and by keeping it sort of simple and open-ended, what you're really doing is ensuring that even if someone comes only one time, they probably are leaving with enough skills to get them started at home.
Yes, exactly.
And then maybe they do watch some YouTube videos or something that like, teach them fancier things. And I think that's great because sewing feels so intimidating. I think a lot of people in their minds, they think like, sewing means that you have a sewing machine and you're like sewing stuff from patterns and you've got this magical set of skills, which they are magical sets of skills. But really, hand sewing is something that we can all do. And we don't even need like equipment for it, really.
I do. Because again, like accessibility, like I want to teach you something that you're going to be able to walk away with and do on your own and do comfortably. And like, for the people, because I have a lot of people who come and they do bring their item to repair, and then they see somebody else with like a starter hoop and they're like, wait, actually, let me just do that. Like, I'm going to not learn how to repair this thing. And like, I would love somebody to come to Sewing Club, like finish a repair and have a piece they can take home with them that's done. I think that's awesome. Right. And every time it happens at Sewing Club, we do like a hooray cheer, like, yo, they finished this item today. Like, that's sick. But I also love the idea of like, here's just basic stitches. Here's how to feel comfortable. Because like when I'm teaching the back stitch, a lot of what I tell people is like, okay, you want to make a stitch the size of a grain of rice. Whatever kind of rice you eat is the correct length, like basmati rice, long grain rice, rice-a-roni, whatever. That's correct. And I have them like, what I'm saying is like, what you're practicing is consistency. You're practicing how to hold the hoop, how to hold the needle. You're practicing sewing in a straight line, because I draw a line on the fabric and just like copy this. So they're practicing like how to be in a straight line, how to keep your stitches in like consistent lengths, like keep that grain of rice length. And I think that helps them just feel comfortable with sewing and making it look good. Because so many people like, I'm trying to learn how to play guitar and it's hard and it doesn't sound good, so it makes me want to stop. And I think with anything, if you suck when you start, it makes you not want to do it. And sewing is like, if it looks bad, it looks bad, but I can teach you how to look good without like having to be like at a professional expert level. Like you can do basic stitches and look really good.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that it's sort of like, it's just kind of simple. Like, it's not like, and today we're going to learn how to make jeans.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
Which intimidates
somebody
people.
Came and they were wearing a pair of pants they made, and I was I could never. Like, I tell people, so many people think I know how to do things that I don't. And I'm like, no, I just sound confident. Like, I'm just my natural, like, that's just my natural tone. I don't actually have that. But like, I know how to repair and I can like solve a problem. That's what I can do. I cannot just make something. Like like I can't cut a perfect, like that's my biggest problem. Can you cut a thing from a pattern? Because I can't. Like it will always be wrong.
It's so stressful to me. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Too much. It's too much. Okay, so We know that one place where you could hold your radical sewing club is outside of Forever 21. But do you have other like venue recommendations?
Yeah, and then even through like booking this tour, I kind of just I had an open date and I just kind of put it out there and was like, "Hey, like where do you all want me to be?" And a ton of people just knew about spaces that I didn't know that are there's a surprising and again, like I'm from the Inland Empire, and so I am a person who's like kind of from LA, but I'm used to driving 40 minutes to get to somewhere. And I know that's different for people in different kinds of states, but like to me, I feel like I have access because of that feeling. Like I don't mind driving 40 minutes to get somewhere. I have the Valley, like North LA. I have like Orange County and the beaches. Like there's a variety of spaces that like I can get to. And so in that general area, there's a ton of like smaller community spaces. Like small third spaces are a huge thing right now. They're happening a lot. And there's a lot of people with like bookstores or cutesy gift shops or like vintage shops or, you know, just there's all kinds of people who are business owners who have space that they want to share with their community, which is awesome. And the biggest thing is finding people who will not charge you. There are like if you can afford that expense, go for it. But there's a few venues that I've reached out to and they're like, cool, it's like this base price or like a percentage of ticket sales, whichever is lower or higher or whatever. And like, I can't afford that. I just like, I cannot be in those spaces. But the kind of people that will like let me be in their space for free, that's awesome. And honestly, like even just talking to like a coffee shop and being like, hey, I'm going to have like, because I don't like size wise, I've never had more than like 15 people, maybe 20. And that's a lot. That's like a packed room.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
So like 15 people is typically my average. I don't have people RSVP. It's very just like, this is when it is, come. And something I'm trying out that like you had mentioned in the clothes swap episode is like putting flyers and like selling tickets ahead of time. I'm trying out the Be Reworn event.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Good.
I really like
cool.
it. The like getting your money from the ticket sales is automatic, which is awesome. Like I don't have to think about it. I just like, yeah, that's dope. But it's helped. Like I've already seen like people are buying tickets to events that like my world tour events that I've posted. Finding places that won't charge you is awesome. And like, you're probably like, I'm going to guess like 5 to 15 people is the average consistently. And like, not to toot my own horn, but like Radical Sewing Club is kind of cool. And a lot of people know about it. That doesn't mean a lot of people show up still. Like that's still the case. So like, even if your sewing club is super poppin', I still don't expect a high number. I recently met somebody they're Canadian and they have a sewing club that's like night in a coffee shop and they have like a DJ. And
whoa,
and like I've seen videos and it looks dark a little, so I'm like, that's interesting.
That sounds stressful. I don't want to like
it's a
I need good
totally
lighting.
different kind of vibe, but I'm like highly impressed by it. Like that's just a thing that people are doing, and it was like packed. Like it was like it was like a packed coffee shop or a place. I don't think you're gonna have that. Like typically it's more of like a small experience, which is cool. So you don't need a lot of space, and it's totally something you could talk to like your local coffee shop or even your local library. Because a lot of places like your local library, like you could just reserve a room. And so you can just reserve a private room and just do your own workshop there, which is really cool. But yeah, there's a lot of community spaces. So like right now I'm at Art Space / Midnight Books. And then I also work with All Power Books, which is like another community space. And then there's a variety of other ones. I don't have to go through the whole list, but like yeah, it just reaching out to local places that already host events or host shows or things like that. Like, people want to be in community. Like, it's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think this is a really good time to reach out to people like that who are maybe small business owners who are thinking like, I want to build community. I want to be an interactive part of my community and I don't know where to begin. By reaching out to them and being like, hey, can we do like a sewing club in your store, your cafe, whatever? They're probably going to be really excited.
Yeah,
like, yes, this is like what I've been looking for.
And like sewing partners really well with like vintage shops or clothing swaps. I've done a few like, okay, so this is something I get asked a lot. To be at like Earth Day events, like fairs. Sewing club for me does not work at like any place where people are tabling and like people are walking around. Nobody wants to like sit and sew for an hour or two at an event that they came to like walk around and like fill a bag with like flyers and stickers or whatever.
Totally.
It just
makes sense.
It super doesn't work. And the only time it a little bit worked is when I partnered with a clothing swap and we were just right next door. And like they're like, oh, this thing's missing a button. Oh, these pants are too long, and so they can go to like sit at my table. But even then, that amount was really small. So that's something I've tried, and like for me, it just doesn't work. I don't know if there's a way to make it work, or if there's like selling mending kits, but that's like a job I have to do. Like, I'm not trying to give myself more work of like putting together a mending kit.
I feel like we covered everything for people wanting to start their own radical sewing club. Do you have any like final, I don't know, like any words of wisdom or like something you just want to say to people to like get them excited about doing something like this?
Okay, one thing is like if you're getting donations, check out your local vacuum and sewing machine repairman. He's probably dope and will help you a lot. So like, don't be scared. And like putting the $80 into getting your machine looked at is worth it.
Definitely.
And so that's one thing. But also like, I had no idea what I was creating in the beginning. I just knew that I knew how to teach people how to do a craft and I had a ton of supplies for a craft. That's basically where I started. I had so much anxiety in my first workshop. I was shaking the whole time. Like my voice was shaking. I had constant like tears in my eyes. Like I could feel my hand. I'm not a shaky person. And I was like sewing and I could feel the shakiness. But like at the end of the day, like you're just hanging out with people and like teaching them how to do a stitch. It can feel intimidating to like take on something that's like, oh, I'm building community, I'm being political, I'm like, or, you know, like it feels like a big deal, but at the end of the day, like you're just hanging out with people and like doing some crafties. So yeah, just go for it, man. Just do it. Like, it's awesome. Yeah. And like I said before, like whatever your excess resources, whatever your skill is, share it with your community. Like whatever you have something that others don't. You have more of something that others don't, and just share it. It's awesome. People want help. People want to be in community. People want to know how to be a good person. So you can help them.
I love that. It's so true. Thank you so much, Scout. This was so much fun. And
yeah.
I totally want to come to LA and come to Radical Sewing Club. And hopefully sometime I get to do that. Thank you again to Scout for sharing their expertise and experience with all of us. It was so amazing to hang out with Scout, and I really do hope to someday go to LA and experience Radical Sewing Club for myself. I was literally just talking about this with Dustin less than 5 minutes ago, how we would like to try to find a venue that would hold about 100 people in LA to do a live show there, because honestly, the most stressful part of the whole thing would be figuring out which of all of the incredible people I know in LA to have as guests. Also, to go to Radical Sewing Club. Anyway, I mentioned that Scout is currently on a world tour of Southern California with Radical Sewing Club, and they will be in Pomona later this week. I'll share the link for tickets in the show notes, along with all the other ways you can find Radical Sewing Club. And if you do go see Scout in Pomona, please share some pics with me. I want to know all about it. I'm also going to share a great list put together by Danielle of Front Porch Threads that shares other mending groups around the world. Before we jump into the last thing I want to discuss with you this week, which is, of course, my reason for feeling optimistic, I want to mention a way you can help a member of the slow fashion community right now. And that person is Selena Sanders. She's a friend. She's a former guest here on Close Horse, and she is a slow fashion designer that many of us know and love thanks to her beautiful upcycle clothing and her tireless work on behalf of garment workers' rights. Unfortunately, her family was impacted by the LA wildfires in January. And while her house is still standing, it is unlivable due to damage from the fires. Her family has been displaced since January and is living off of credit cards in temporary housing. Her studio is in her house and it is also unusable right now. Most of the equipment is heavily damaged and will need to be replaced, along with all the materials and everything else she lost in the fire. This means she can't work, and her business, which helps support her family, is on hold right now. To make matters worse, her insurance is dragging its heels on paying for the damage, and it's trying to pay less than state law requires. It has also stopped covering any temporary housing. She and her husband have filed a complaint with the California Department of Insurance, but things like this take time to resolve if they ever do, and Selena needs our help. There are many ways you can help, and I'll link to all of them in the show notes. That includes subscribing to Selena's Substack, buying a pattern from Selena, or just directly donating to Selena via Venmo. Like I said, all of those links will be in the show notes. And if you can't afford to monetarily support Selena right now, share these options on social media because someone else in your community may be able to help. I know it was very difficult for Selena to ask for help, but I'm glad we're here to support her when she needs us. And I want to be clear, she did not ask me to include this in this episode or ask publicly on her behalf. I just felt like all of you would want to know and would want to be able to support her in any way you can. That's what's so amazing about this community, right? Like some of us have never met in real life. We live really far apart, but we care for one another so deeply. And there are times where one of you will send me a message talking about how being a part of a slow fashion community has impacted you, what my work has meant to you. And I'm going to tell you, it literally makes me cry happy tears because I often feel like I'm kind of lonely and out here in this world sort of on my own, and feeling that connection with all of you is more valuable than anything else I've encountered in my life. So why am I feeling optimistic this week? Well, I was going to talk about all of the court cases that are stopping Doge and all of the horrible executive orders in their tracks. And trust me, this stuff is being covered by the media. It's just, you kind of got to look for it. And it's really exciting, actually. But I'm going to put a pin in that until next week, and we'll talk about that more then. Instead, I want to talk about all of the protests I'm seeing around the United States and the world right now, and how many people I'm seeing on social media saying, you know what, I've never been a part of a protest before. I've never even thought of it, but here I am at one and it feels amazing and I have been radicalized. How incredible is that? It makes me so happy. And I'll tell you, I talked about this on social last week. I'm seeing a lot of posts claiming that the media is ignoring the protests taking place across the US, sort of implying this, I don't know, a bias or a lack of trustworthiness in the media. And I'm just going to tell you, the media is covering the protests. It's also covering the economic boycotts that we've been talking about here. The problem is that we aren't seeing those pieces on social media, either because people aren't sharing them, which could be part of it, because there is this agreement sort of not to share people's faces at protests on social media. because, there's fear of people being tracked down or doxxed. Very fair. Just heard a whole piece on NPR last week about Elon Musk doxing a protester in Seattle, and I'm still so angry about it. But so we're not seeing that stuff on social media because maybe people aren't sharing it to stay safe. But I also think these things don't get enough engagement to succeed in the algorithm. And both of these possibilities point to a fundamental way we're using social media as a destination for outrage rather than a place for sharing information and building collaboration. And one thing I just want to add here on the topic of social media, I was literally talking about this with Dustin this weekend, is, people have left Meta. That's fine. People are scattering into other places like Blue Sky and Substack, and God knows I'm posting in all the places. Just as a recap: Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Substack, Tumblr, TikTok, and even Pinterest. Like, I'm just trying to be there for everyone wherever they are scattered, right? The thing is, I believe that pretty much all of these platforms are kind of, for lack of a better term, fucked up, right? And they're all making money off of our data, off of unpaid work of creators, et cetera, right? And so, like, in my mind, yeah, maybe Meta's definitely maybe a little better than Twitter. I refuse to call it X. But Meta's probably worse than Blue Sky, blah, blah, blah. But like, they all kind of suck. Pinterest is making a ton of money off of your data and ads and stuff too. And I told Dustin, like, my approach to it and like why I'm posting in all of these places is, one, like I said, I don't trust any of these platforms really, but I think it's super radical to go on these platforms who have turned us into both products and customers, often in a really tricky way. And instead of showing up there and buying things that I see on there from them, to show up and say, like, actually, I am sharing this like really radical, revolutionary information about how we can do good things in difficult times, how we can, reduce, refuse, resist. To me, it feels really radical and I'm sorry, you're probably tired of hearing me use that word, but it is indeed radical to show up in these places that function essentially as like online malls and say, I'm actually here to talk to you about something totally different. And that includes telling you how you should buy less stuff. And I'm also using this as a place where we can connect as a community and no one has to buy anything, right? That feels pretty radical. It is not unlike mending outside of Forever 21, to be honest. And so I'm continuing to post on those spaces so that I can stay connected with all of you, and so we can meet more people, and so we can disrupt the consumerism that these platforms provide, right? So that's my thought on social media, which is not to say I have issues with the algorithm, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. But I think that we have this opportunity to be figuratively mending outside the Forever 21 on social media. Anyway, how I know that the protests are really happening is that I see the coverage of them because I read news sites. And also because I'm so chronically online, I know where to find information about protests and when and where they are happening. And I thought I would just share that with you right now, just so you can find these for yourself if you want to get involved. For one, I have found that subreddits for my city and state, so both Pennsylvania, my state, and it's really more of a county, Lancaster, we have a subreddit as well. It's been super useful. There are protests happening here in Lancaster every single week. Tons of protests happening at the state capitol in Harrisburg or in Philadelphia or in cities in other states that are nearby. And I find all of this on Reddit. If you're kind of like, I don't want to actually sign up for another social media platform, which I get, grassroots organizations like 5051, which is one of the big groups behind a lot of these protests, and Indivisible, which actually might have its own chapter in your area. 5051 and Indivisible are sharing details for events across social media platforms, including Reddit, Instagram, etc. And they have websites too. So I'm going to share the websites in my show notes, and hopefully that will sort of start your odyssey to getting connected with these groups and finding the best place where you want to find information about upcoming protests, town halls, all that kind of stuff. As I said earlier, the fact that many of us are not seeing the protests on social media is actually a great example of dun dun dun, why we cannot get our news solely from social media. Protest coverage isn't appearing on these platforms either because, like I said, people aren't sharing it or the algorithm prioritizes outrage over information. And it's no surprise to me or any other content creator out there because we experience firsthand that actual information and education rarely succeeds on social media. I'll spend 6 hours creating a super encouraging post with helpful information only to see it get a few hundred likes. But if I share something that feels more inflammatory, like free people is fast fashion, which is at this point low-key boring to me, I will get thousands of likes, shares, and follows because the algorithm rewards outrage and bad feelings. Last week, I did a post about what I discussed in last week's episode about the boycotts making me feel optimistic. I want to say it got 200 likes. I have like 45, 46, something like that, 1,000 followers on Instagram. It got similar low engagement everywhere else I shared it, except for Tumblr, where people seem more interested in education. And similarly, like things I've shared about how you can have better media literacy or how you can remain hopeful in difficult times, that stuff gets super low engagement. People want to be upset on social media, or the algorithm knows that we like to be upset on social media and it pushes that stuff up. I'm not really sure, but it sucks. And it's also why we see so much negative stuff on social media because it succeeds and it keeps people on the app longer. That said, these protests, which are happening, and they're happening a lot, they remind me of something very important, which is that we are not doomed unless we decide to be doomed and therefore do nothing. And that applies to everything: climate change, plastic pollution, the global rise of fascism, you name it. If we want to be doomed, we can fucking be doomed. We just don't do shit, right? And we maybe go on the internet and say we're doomed, and then we go buy something to cheer ourselves up, and we throw some plastic in the river. Whatever we want to do, we're doomed, right? Who cares? Ha ha ha. The thing is, we're not doomed. And I get it, because sometimes taking a doomer view of things feels easier. If you accept the worst fate, you don't have to try for something better. You won't be disappointed. You just don't have to worry anymore. But have you heard of the 3.5% rule? Research by Erica Chenoweth, a political scientist at Harvard University, found that only 3.5% of a population engaging in political protest will result in serious political change. I mentioned this in my conversation with Scout, so I just wanted to revisit it again with you. And this has been shown time and time again in history, that you only need 3.5% of a population to end a government policy that is messed up, or continue that government policy, or change just about anything else around us. And all of the things we're facing right now are political, even if they don't seem like it on the surface. Solving any of them will require a combination of policy change and regulations, aka laws, and personal change. That's us on an individual level. We have to be involved, right? What that means is that here in the US, where we have about 300 million people, some of them are children, just as an FYI, we need about 10 million people involved in protesting and calling our representatives, signing petitions, and spreading true fact-based information. That's 200,000 people in each state. I didn't even account for District of Columbia or Puerto Rico or the other territories. When you divide those into it, it's an even smaller number that we need in each location. And when I hear that, 200,000, I'm like, we can do that. I mean, if everyone who followed Clotheshorse across all of the places I post now, the people who listen to the podcast, all of that, if they got a couple of their friends involved, that's a large group right there. That's probably like more than 200,000. That's one state we got checked off, right? And the thing is, this is all already happening. Like I said, I see these protests happening every week in every state and territory and District of Columbia here in the United States. Like, it's really, really happening. In a time when the worst people and the worst systems want you to give up, Resisting is both radical and revolutionary and so necessary. And in my opinion, radical, revolutionary, necessary, those are way better adjectives than doomed. Thanks for listening to another episode of Closed Source. Written, researched, edited, hosted, all the things by me, Amanda Lee McCarty. As always, if you liked what you heard this week, please leave a rating, a review, subscribe, tell your friends, all those things. If you are looking for another way to support Closed Source and you want your own Sewing is a Radical Act sticker or iron-on transfer, you can get those at the Closed Source merch shop, which I always share in the show notes. If you'd like to support my work financially in other ways, there are ample ways to do that. Also in the show notes, also in my bio on all of those social media platforms that I post on every single day. Lastly, but of course, never leastly, thank you to my other half, Dustin Travis White, for our music and audio support. And I will see you all next week when we're going to talk about how you can start your own community fridge. Bye.